Hello, everyone, and welcome. I hope you're enjoying your conference so far. I'm Jo Candlish, one of the UK's ambassadors for the PMO leader. Welcome to one of our EMEA sessions. And we are going to hear from the fantastic Henny Portman, who's going to talk us through Agile Portfolio Management from plan-based to discovery continuum. Henry is an author and an expert in Agile Portfolio Management. I can verify that because I do have his book. I can't get him to sign it, sadly, because we're global, but I'm taking this as his blessing. He is going to give us some insights and some of his expertise today. Just a reminder, don't forget to visit our sponsors after the session, obviously, but they will be in the booths there to take your questions, and they do make this whole conference possible, so do pop in and say hello to them. And during this session, you'll find the chat function and you'll find the Q&A on your right of your screen. So if you want to pop any questions in there, make any comments about what you're hearing, then please do that. But otherwise, without further ado, I will hand over to you, Henny, and take us through what we're going to see today.
Okay, thank you, Jo. My name is Henny Portman. I'm always saying I'm that silly old guy from the Netherlands with a passion for project, program, portfolio management, PMOs, and all those sorts of things. I worked 37 years for ING and NN Group, and I was responsible for setting up and making them work together of PMOs across the globe. So I did that in Central and Eastern Europe, I did that in Asia, and those sorts of things. 8 years ago, I started to build my own company with a couple of friends, and we give training classes. And most of the time, I'm focusing on maturity assessments of organizations. Where are they standing, and how can they improve their project, program, or portfolio management? On top of that, I like to read books, fiction, non-fiction, but also, of course, in our area. And from time to time, I write on my blog, and I wrote a couple of books, as you can see at the lower part. And today we are also going to talk about the book, Agile Portfolio Management, the bridge to strategic agility. Sometimes I write books on my own, sometimes I write it with someone else. And this time I wrote this book together with Rini van Zolingen. He is a professor of the Technical University of Delft here in the Netherlands. But okay, let's have a look, about this topic, Agile Portfolio Management. And when we talk about Agile Portfolio Management, you can look at this from a sort of continuum. So on one side, you will have plan-based portfolio management, and on the other side is what we call discovery-based portfolio management. And that's a continuum. And I'm not saying you have to be on one side. For some organizations, maybe it really makes sense that they are really focusing on plan-based portfolio management. When I look at in the energy sector, when a grid organization looking at the electricity, maybe they are making plans 30 or 40 years ahead. So that's typically plan-based portfolio management when they are making changes to their grid, to their network. On the other side, you have companies who are really moving at the edge, and every time they have to move really fast and take immediate actions. And that's more on the other side. Let's, for example, look at the financial industry. And when we talk about, in this book, about Agile Portfolio Management, we doesn't mean portfolio management for Agile delivery. So we are using an Agile delivery method, maybe Scrum, etc., etc. And we have teams who are using that. So that's what you could call, that's still a little bit of plan-based portfolio management for Agile delivery. Now, when we talk about Agile portfolio management, we talk about the Agile way of working of portfolio management itself. And that's where I want to talk about. And as an organization, you can ask yourself, okay, maybe I would like to move a little bit more towards a discovery-based portfolio management. What can I do? Now, there we created what we call 10 measures, including 10 control variables, to make a step towards more discovery-based portfolio management. So let's have a look at these 10 measures. But before I go into those 10 measures, just a little bit to refresh your ideas about portfolio management, I would say portfolio management comes down to asking and answering 4 questions. And the first thing is, are we doing the right things? Or in other words, does my initiative, does my project contribute to the organizational objectives, to the organizational goals? So if we are doing a project which doesn't contribute to our organizational goals, does that make sense? Now, in the past, I created an article about project creatures, and one of the project creatures was a pet project. And it was from a senior manager, and he really wants to deliver that type of project, but it doesn't contribute. So we are spending scarce resources, budget to this project, and at the end, it doesn't contribute. So this is a really important question you always have to ask yourself. Another one is, are we doing things the right way? And here you see a difference when we look at plan-based versus discovery-based. And so when we are looking at plan-based portfolio management, it's more about allocation budgets to individual projects. It's about a portfolio plan, and we push a lot of projects in this plan, and we're also pushing the organization to start with these projects and programs, and probably making use of all kinds of traditional project program frameworks. When we look at discovery based, it's more about looking at your organization, organizing your organization in value streams, and allocate budgets to those value streams. And you will create within those value streams probably roadmaps. And you will look at your delivery organization, okay, when they have time, they will pull from the roadmaps, from the backlogs, the next initiative to start with. And another difference when we look at those two, the third question, are we getting things done? So when we look at plan-based, then I see many organizations struggling with periodic progress and status reports, and they aggregate that information and looking at are we still on time? Are we still within budget? Hey, you remember all those smileys? And I'm always saying, this is watermelon reporting, green on the outside, red on the inside. But okay, that keeps discussions away. But that's what you are doing in plan-based portfolio management. And these are reviewed by a portfolio board, and then they will take probably some actions if needed. When they look at discovery-based portfolio management, it's not looking at reporting based on time, budget, and scope, and those sorts of things. Now, it's reporting on the outcome and the impact. Are we really moving towards our strategic objectives? So maybe they are making use of an obeyer room, and where the walls have all those visuals where we can really see, okay, we are moving towards our strategic objectives. And if we are not moving, okay, then we have to take actions. That's the key difference. And looking at value, are we realizing the desired value? So when we look at plan-based portfolio management, probably it's a little bit related to post-delivery reviews of projects and programs. And to be honest, I think this is an area when we look at plan-based portfolio management organizations, they are suffering. Have benefits management, benefits realization tracking. They are not doing that. But if you move to discovery-based portfolio management, then it's a continuous process. So it's about continuous validation of the delivered value. And that's what you are doing. On a weekly basis, you are seeing, are we moving towards our strategic objectives? So for me, just very quick, okay, this is what I mean with portfolio management, answering those 4 questions. Okay, going back to our model, talking about portfolio management agility. This, so on the left side, you see plan-based portfolio management. On the right side, you see discovery-based portfolio management. And in the middle, there you've seen those 10 areas. Looking at cycle time, that's about, okay, are we focusing on years, or maybe are we focusing on months, or even days? Work in progress. Is it about extreme multitasking, push-based, or is it monotasking, pull-based? 2 extremes. Result orientation, focus on the output or focus on the outcome. Now, as you can see, there are several of these areas. I will take a few more. Looking at the validation focus. Is this about validation afterwards, or is it continuous validation? Or looking at the decision-making structure. Is that an hierarchical top-down structure that will give some in-depth examples later on, or are talking about the network structure? Are we using assumptions, beliefs, opinions to make decisions, or is it about data? Is it about evidence? Is it about explicitly confirmed hypotheses? Or looking at our execution flexibility? Do we have a fixed execution? Or are we able to say, no, this doesn't add value to our customers. It doesn't add value to our organization. So let's stop with this initiative. Or what's the execution mindset? Are we using a fixed performance? So, okay, so we know when we are creating a next portfolio plan what the teams can deliver. Or do we have a mindset? No, we are not looking what they delivered in the past. No, we are focusing on a growth performance. If the teams can deliver more, we can achieve our strategic objectives faster. Or maybe we can expand our strategic objectives. And of course, you can look at improving portfolio management. Okay, let's go further. Okay, the first one, set up short cycle portfolio management. So this is about the cycle time. And so this is about rhythm and cadence. And I think if we look at Agile, so what is Agile doing to an organization? Now, it's establishing a sort of cadence of iterations. So you could say, with other words, we are replacing the uncertainty of plans with the certainty of a rhythm. And then you have several, I will just set up a few examples. So this is an organization who are using quarterly business reviews. And in between the next quarterly business review, you will see iterations, sprints, or time boxes, etc. For those familiar with SAFe, they will recognize, okay, so we will have a PI planning, and then in between we have our iterations. That's the same. So setting up such a structure, that's one. Another thing which is important, how are we going to escalate? So what you see here, this is an example of a Dutch organization who can escalate in a day. And now you see other organizations, okay, we need to escalate. We have a problem and we escalate to the next level, maybe department level, or maybe your value stream level, or whatever you have in your organization. But they will meet again next week. So, okay, already a delay of a week. And they cannot make the decision. Okay, they have to escalate as well, maybe to the management team. And maybe they will have a meeting every month. So before you know, in this escalation, it will take you 4, 5, 6 weeks before it's getting back to the team who was waiting for an answer. In this example, what you see here, this is within a Dutch bank. So every week they have this area where they say, okay, we are now making our plans. Okay, what are we going to do next week? Okay, that's on team level. And then a couple of hours later, it can be discussed on department level or even on management level. And it makes it much faster. So we are much more moving towards discovery-based portfolio management. Another one is about reducing the number of parallel initiatives. Ask yourself, looking at my portfolio, within this portfolio, are there projects managed by a single project manager? How many of them? I think this is key in many organizations. Just to give a quick example, I became the regional head of PMO, and I was also responsible for portfolio management in Central and Eastern Europe for a Dutch insurance company. And the first question I received from the regional CEO, Henny, you have to do something with the project managers. They are not delivering. You have to give them some sort of basic project management training. And I said, let's first see, okay, what is happening in all those business units. And it were 12 business units, 12 countries. And I went to all of them. And I came back to this regional CEO. I said, how many projects do you have? He had no idea. I said, now I found 600. And I asked him, how many people are working in your region? He said, no, around 4,500. And I said, do you know how many people we need for these 600 projects? He had no clue. I said, now around 6,000, but I think you have an operation to run. So they are not there. So we looked at this list of 600 projects and we said project, no business case, or pet project, forget about it. And we reduced the list from 600 to around 150. So let's say around 10 projects for each business unit. And then a quarter later, he came to me and he said, Henny, what kind of training have you given my project managers? We are delivering. I said, I'm not there yet, but only reducing the portfolio already made a huge step forward. So the problem was multitasking. Everyone was running on several projects. And when something went wrong in another project, they moved people around, creating or helping that project to get on track again. But okay, there was a delay. And they created a delay by moving away from another project. And this is what I see in many projects. So that we are doing too much multitasking. And so think about this. You are running a project and you have a problem today. Or you had a problem yesterday. It kept you awake last night. And today you are going to work on a different project. What do you think? Can you just turn out your mind and say, I'm not going to think about the project from yesterday? No, that's bothering you. So you are not effective. You are not productive today. And that's what is happening. So you have to look at, okay, so we cannot do everything at the same moment. Okay, so what are we going to do? So you need to prioritize. And then when there is room, okay, add a new project. Just to give a small exercise, not for now, but do it at your own company. Take two tasks in mind. One task is writing down the figures 1 to 26. 1, 2, 3, 4, 26. The other one is writing down the letters of the alphabet. A, B, C. That's the other task, till Z. And then divide your team in two groups. One group is doing multitasking. So 1A, 2B, 3C, till 26Z. The other half of your team is doing monotasking or sequential, whatever you want. And it's saying, okay, write down first the figures 1 to 26. And when they are done, task 2, behind that, A, B, C, till Z. The second group is doing this 50% faster than the first group. And now think about, you are not doing two of those very simple tasks, but you are now doing two projects. So if you want to learn one thing from this session, focus on your work in progress. And of course, it doesn't make sense as an organization to focus on one project. No, okay, find out, okay, how many projects can we run in parallel? But taking into account that multitasking on an individual level, try to avoid that. So this is a very important one. Another one is managing by value. You can ask yourself, who managed by value? Who has defined value? And so when we look at result orientation, okay, if we look at value, make value concrete. So accept that it's subjective. Value can be more. So look at from a multidimensional and holistical view. Make it a continuous conversation, because the value of today, maybe 6 months later, will become different. Now, you can find here a few more of those examples. I'm going a little bit faster, looking at the time. So another way is, okay, create. And look at your product owner, or maybe you will call it your value owner. Okay, what kind of framework do you give them? So when you look at products and services you are delivering as an organization, there's current value behind it. This model is coming from Scrum.org. But there is also, if you look at the product, unrealized value. And you get your hands on that. So that will help your customer, but it will also help you as an organization. So focus on the existing current value and maybe looking at unrealized value. I will come back on that a little bit later. Another one is about keep your strategic options open. Looking at the world we are now in, the VUCA world. So create your strategy. There is uncertainty. So it's not going to work if you think about what you would like to do. So within your strategy, make sure you will have alternatives. Make sure you will have options. So if something is going to happen, you can choose a different option or even a different scenario. Now, and there are all kinds of frameworks behind that. You can make use of your SWOT analysis to start your strategy analysis, or making use of a strategic bets framework where you look at strategic decisions as let's say opportunities with associated stakes, and then you will make your decisions based on missing information, based on uncertainty, but maybe also based on some gut feeling or some bluff, etc. So sometimes I say, when you look at this and people say, it's a little bit of chess, now I would say, no, it's not a little bit of chess, it's a little bit of poker. And these bets, you saw there, or if you see there on the right side, this is what Spotify was doing. They were experimenting with company bet boards and market bet boards. And so these are their bets. Always in safe, you can see, okay, keep your options open. Look at your set-based approach. And so there are many focusing on this. Or about involvement. When we look at strategic decision-making structure, okay, then you have in a more plan-based organization a portfolio board with a manager, portfolio manager, the management, etc. And they are making decisions based on what? So that's are all assumptions. They have no clue about the available resources. They have no clue about the needed resources. They have no clue about maybe the product itself. And this information is not on the table, but it's in the organization. Look at your development teams. Look at your business owners. Look at your product owners. Make use of them. So maybe when you look at a traditional organization with their PMO, you have to move towards a value-based office. Their task is to create a continuous flow of value-adding or initiatives who are contributing to your strategic objectives. And when needed, they have to stop projects. If a project is not contributing, stop the project. This is what you need to do. Now, I would say you can download the presentation, so read that later on, looking at the time. Looking at data. So your decision factors, based on what? Maybe you can make use of OKRs. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with OKRs, just a small example here. So I would like to increase quality of life through education somewhere in a country. And at this moment, it costs them 2 hours to get some water. So that's their focus. They need water. So here you see then, okay, my objective is, okay, increase quality. And my outcome is that it will not take them 2 hours, but 2 or maybe 10 minutes to fetch some water. What do I need to do? Okay, output, create a village pump. So activity, I need to dig, I need to build that pump. And this will help to focus, okay, looking at the value, looking at the impact, instead of only focusing, I have a village pump. But if the village pump is still 1.5 hours away, I'm not achieving my objectives. And so OKRs, and then you can combine them with, for example, KPIs, and see KPIs as health metrics, looking backwards. That makes sense. Then you are really making the decisions based on data. Looking at another one, making reversible choices. So my execution flexibility. Yeah, probably you have heard about Eric Ries with his minimum viable product. So there is an idea. Okay, does it make sense to move on? Maybe your minimum viable product is still too big. You can make it smaller. That's what I call a riskiest assumption test. So you create a hypothesis on that level. And then you look at, okay, does it make sense? And when it makes sense, okay, you can create what I call an MMP, a minimum marketable product. It's not a full product, but it contains 1 or 2 features where a customer is willing to pay for. And then you can continue. Then you can look at, okay, I have now a product with a few features. Is there unrealized value? So yes, there is. Okay, I will add a feature. Is my client still willing to pay? And at a certain moment, you can add a feature, but my client is not willing to pay for this additional feature. So it doesn't make sense anymore. So there is no value in it for that client. So there is no unrealized value anymore. And that means, okay, now I have to look, do I have a mature product? Okay, I keep it on the market. It will hopefully become my cash cow. and I will maintain it. Or if it's not a mature product, keep it off the market. And that makes it much more flexible in your execution. And then it's just 30 minutes for this presentation, so I have to be very short. Okay. We are back at our starting point with this framework, looking at those 10 areas. So you have to ask yourself, where am I standing? Where do I want to be? What's the delta in between? And what can I do? And that will help you to move forward. And then, if I look at this book, it's explaining all these theories, but I think a big advantage of this book is also we have several cases within the book and not 1 or 2 pages. Now it's about 12 or 13 pages for a case. And there are 3 really large cases in the book to really have to make it feel for you, okay, what does it mean to implement portfolio management? And this is just a very short introduction of what I'm saying in this book. So maybe there are some questions.
Thank you, Henny. That was absolutely, there was a whistle stop, but it's fascinating, and I don't want to stop you because I think we just want to go into more and more and more of it. It's absolutely fantastic. And everyone, I really would encourage you, I know I waved it around earlier, but I would encourage you to get the book because I've been making notes as we go along, and it is all in there. Now, I don't think, no, we haven't had any questions in the Q&A. We've had a few comments there about how lots of organisations are adopting OKRs instead of KPIs. And I think that is something that we're seeing. It's certainly something organisations are getting more use out of, and that objective and outcome-based focus, I think, is huge, isn't it? But you certainly outlined some of the very common problems we find, like pet projects, too many projects, nobody wanting to stop anything. I think absolutely fantastic. Really, really useful, because what we got in there too was some of the solutions, which is always useful. And I'll be taking some of those back to work. For those of my team who are on this presentation, you can expect it to be doing the ABC and the 1 to 26 exercise sometime soon. We'll do that one afternoon for a bit of fun.
Yep.
But I think unless anyone has any last minute questions, I'm going to say thank you very, very much for giving us your time today. I really appreciate it. Everybody, get yourselves over to those sponsors. Make sure you're networking through the conference today. And thank you very much for attending. And Henny, thank you very, very much.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you.